what we are going to do, first of all, we are going to create all the backend resources. It means we are going to create a public IP address. We are going to create a NSG. We are going to create a virtual network. And we are going to create a NIC card. And then we are going to create, so this is my first, second step, third step, fourth step, and then we are going to create a virtual machine. Okay, is this clear?
Yes.
All right. So from the both way, how to attach it, how to detach, everything we are going to discuss over here. But remember that either you have to create a virtual network while creation of virtual machine, or either you have to create a virtual network and then you can have to attach it. But the virtual network is a mandatory. You cannot disassociate that. You can change a NIC card, you can change an NSG, you can change a public IP address as well after the creation of virtual machine. But you cannot change a virtual network after virtual machine creation. Remember that. Once it is connected with that, no one can change it. Either you have to just delete that virtual machine. Okay?
Can different virtual machines share a single VNet?
Yes.
Okay.
So we are going to talk about that one by one. Okay? So what we are going to do, I'm just creating all these things inside the East US region. And let's say this my RG name is a network. Right? Here I can say that this is my PIP. Right? NSG, I can say the NSG name is NSG East US. Here I can put a name as a VNet East US or VNet 1, VNet 1 East US, and NIC card, I can say that NIC East US. Okay, that will be my naming convention. So we can easily understand. Okay, now let's create it. So let's go for the Azure portal and
question.
yes, yes.
There are 5 IPs reserved, one for gateway, one for network, one for broadcast, and remaining 2s are reserved for what purpose?
Okay, one for broadcast and remaining 2 are for the mapping Azure DNS IPs to the VNet space. Okay, let me just go from here as well. Azure IP reservation. See, yes, we have IP address reservation. Okay, learn.microsoft.com. Yes. Do have somewhere with IP reservations. Okay, yes, this one. See here. So the first one is going for the network address. Second one reserved by Azure for the default gateways. After that, second and third, which is the third and fourth, actually reserved by Azure to map the Azure DNS IPs to VNet space. And then last one is for the network broadcast address.
Got it.
All right.
Yeah.
Okay, cool. So now let's create our first, let's say what we are going to create here. Let's go with that flow. Okay, public IP address. And what is that? Here I am not going to create any storage account. Here I am not going to create any disk or any other things. Today we are going to only talk about the networking part. So let's focus on that part only. And these are the resources which are connected with that networking. So let's create first public IP address.
Mother, in cloud, do we get any netted API? ऐसे कुछ रहता है क्या? Do we have netted APIs and all, or bi-directional or unidirectional?
Bi-directional and unidirectional app.
I mean network mein, like when it comes to network for anything comes here in. I mean, I've just heard it actually. Cross checking.
Okay, so let's check this. Okay. All right, so let's start with the public IP address one by one, and then let's go with that, whether we can go with that directional or bidirectional, whether we can fulfill that things or not. Okay, so this is my public IP address. So if you are going for the IPv4 or if you want to go with that IPv6 or both, so most of the time IPv4 is using for the load balancer, virtual machines, and so on. Still, virtual machines are not having the IPv6 connectivity in Azure, but some of the load balancers, we can use IPv6 address for the load balancers purpose. So let's connect with that IPv4 only. So this is my SKU, standard and basic. It is also again connected with that load balancer. So whenever we are having the public IP address, if you are attaching that public IP address with the load balancer, it should have a same SKUs. If I'm creating the load balancer in a standard one, your public IP address should be in a standard one. So like that. Then we have a regional and global. What do you want? Whether it is unique in a region or unique in a global one. So you can just do that. So let's say this is a regional one. Now here I can just put a name, which is, what is that name? My PIP, right? I can just put that, my PIP. All right. Now, after that, this is a routing preference, how they will reach out to you. So this is your public IP address, right? So how that networking will be routed. So that networking will be by default routed by using that Microsoft network, which is handled by Microsoft only. If you want to route it by using that internet, then first of all, it will request for the internet. Internet will search for some particular thing, whatever you want, and then it will redirect you through the internet and then you. So your costing will be high if you are using the outer thing, which is the internet routing. Best way, we can just go with that Microsoft network. And then DNS label, you need to just add some DNS label or you can just skip it. So let's say for the DNS label, I can just put my PIP only, name, done. Here, my subscription will be this. Now the resource group, I can create the resource group, that RG network, right? Done. Now my location will be the East US region. I don't want any kind of the availability zone, and then that's it, right? So I can just create it. Done. This is my public IP address. So this part is done. Now let's go for the NSG. Now what is meant by NSG? Network Security Group. Any idea?
Through which we can put a filtering, either inbound or outbound traffic, which traffic can come inside and which traffic can go outside from the VM.
Okay. Yes, perfect. So let me just check what is that. Already used by another public IP. Okay. All right. Let me just delete that deployment. I have used that DNS name. So let me just change that name. Okay. All right, that's it. Only the issue with the DNS name. That will be okay for me. Now, let's talk about the network security group. So if you observe in your laptop as well, there is a firewall. If you remember that firewall and network protection is there, firewall, Windows Firewall Defender is there, allow app through the Windows Firewall. Now, what is meant by that? If I'm going through any one of that, let me just go over here and let me check, not this one. Firewall. Let me just check this. Yes, this one. So your laptop is also having this thing. If you want to disconnect your all the USB connections or any other things, you can just disable it from here. It means inbound rules and the outbound rules. So these are my inbound rules. If I want to enable this one echo or anything, files and printer sharing or anything, I can just enable it. I can just click on that. I can just right click and then enable that, right? Similar way for the outbound rule means who can access your virtual machine and how your virtual machine can access the outside, right? So these things are done by or managed or controlled by network security group. So as I already have a multiple security group, let's create one security group. So what will be the name of security group? NSG East US. So I can select this one and then I can create or select my RG network and NSG East US. Okay, that will be the name. And then review and create, because another tab is tag only. That's it. Done. Now after that, what I need to do? I need to create a virtual network. See, public IP address and the NSG are the independent resources. It means they don't require any other resources. They are not dependent on any other resources. But your NIC card is depend on virtual network. So let's create first virtual network now. Okay. Let's create a virtual network. Okay. Now let's create one virtual network which is present in my this subscription, and I'm using the same RG for that. And here, what is the name? VNet 1 hyphen East US. Okay, and this is a very important point. So now my IP address space. What is the range of your virtual network? Is this? You can specify, okay, if I want 2 here, I can use it. 2 means what now? Now what is meant by that? It means 10.0.0.0/16. It means these are my hosts and these are my networks, right? After that, here, if I'm using this particular IP address, then I can go from 10.0.255.255 up to, I can go from 0.0 to 255.255. Then this is my range. It means I can create whatever that 6556 something like that, right? We have just calculated earlier. So till that I can just go, right? That many virtual machines I can create. Now in this virtual network, if I want to create a different subnet, so this is also a higher level of network, right? At a one time, we are not creating that many virtual machines in a same virtual network. Instead of that, and we cannot manage it easily. So if let's say 6,000 virtual machines are present in this particular network, so we need to manage each and everything. If we are allowing some rules for that, then also it is having some issues. Maybe some virtual machines don't require it. Maybe some virtual machine required it. So we cannot manage easily. So instead of that, as per your requirement, you can just divide that particular thing. So we have a 255.255, that much I can have. But maybe I can just divide it in a subnets. So my subnet 1 will be, I can say that these are my networks, right? I cannot do anything over here. But I can do one thing, 10.0.1. Out of that 255, I can use 1.0/24. So for my particular subnet, I can mask 24. Instead of 16, I can mask 24. And this part, I can use it for the subnet 123 marking, right? So here for this subnet number 1, I can go up to 10.0.1.255. For my subnet number 2, I can use the same 10.0.2.0/24. So I can go up to 10.0.2.255. Is this clear? Yes. So we are chopping it down in this multiple subnets. Is this clear? Yes, team. Any questions?
Yes,
Mhm.
ma'am.
Okay.
I have some questions, but I'll ask in the last about public IP and this.
Okay. Sure. We'll do that. Okay. Now, right now, this is my IPv4 address. So now here it is mentioned 10.1.0.0. Why this is 10.1.0.0? Why not 10.0.0.0? Because in that East US region, I already have my virtual network, existed virtual network, which is having a 10.0.0.0/16 IP address or address space. This is called as an address space. So that's why automatically it will take this one. Otherwise, you can change this number. See, I can mention 0. So see here, it is already taken by somebody, right? So instead of that, I can use 1 over here, right? So this part is done. Now here you can add some subnets. Here you can add some subnets. So it is mentioned. See here, subnet addresses, you can just mention like this. Either you can add a 16 as well. If you want to create only one subnet inside the virtual network with all the range, then you can just choose 10.1.0.0/16 over here. You can do that. Only one subnet with all the range. Yes, you can do it. But let's say if I want to create a subnet. So this is my subnet 1. I can choose 10 dot, what is that? It's a 1, right? 1.0.0/24. So see here, it is calculating. So it means you can go up to 0.02 to 255 and you will have a 151 host only because 5 Azure reserved addresses. 5 are there, which is a Azure reserved addresses, right? And then you can just add it. Done. If you want to add one more subnet, if you want to add 2 more subnet, you can just add it. So let's say this is my subnet 2. Here I can just put 10.1.1. Now this will be the 1 because here we are having a 0, right? So here I'm using 1.0/24, right? And then you can just add it. And then we can go for the security if you want to enable the Bastion host, DDoS protection or the firewall. So don't worry about it. We are not going to talk about that part right now. Bastion and firewall, we are going to talk about it in this week only, right? And then let's review and create it. Done. So this part is done. Now, once I'm done with my virtual network, then and then only I can go for my NIC card. So I have done this part. Now let's go for